So I took on the role of CEO at GREENVALE at the start of September, and I'm very pleased to be able to play a part in the GREENVALE story. I'm a geologist by trade. I've spent the last 13 years in exploration and resource development of base metal deposits, mainly in the Mount Isa Cloncurry region, but also others. And indeed looking for the same kind of deposits that we're looking for at GREENVALE. So I'm really looking forward to drawing from that experience as we seek to make a high value discovery in GREENVALE's prospective Georgina Basin IOCG project. Now, the GREENVALE board has a proven track record in discovery and development of ore deposits and creating value for shareholders. And most of you here today would be familiar with the Pilbara mineral story. Next slide. Some important information. Next slide, please. So GREENVALE has a simple capital structure with just under 400 million shares on issue, 9 million in the bank. Top 20 shareholders hold 48% of the company, and the three directors, as the three largest shareholders, have a combined 24%. GREENVALE has a bright future, and that's underpinned by two high-quality projects. The first is a development project in the Alpha Torbanite deposit, and the second is a greenfields exploration project in the Georgina Basin, Northern Territory. Next slide. So Alpha, it's located about 500 kilometres west of Rockhampton in central Queensland. I discovered it in 1939, so it's got an 80-year history of exploration and testing. And that exploration has included over 60 historical holes, testing for oil yields, testing for bitumen production, testing for activated carbon. The project has potential to produce a range of high demand value-added products. And Torbanite, it's a high grade, organic rich sedimentary rock which forms from the accumulation of algae deposited in a freshwater lake environment. And what makes it special is it's got a very high yield, so up to 650 litres of oil from 1 tonne of Torbanite. Torbanite's been known in Australia since the early 1800s, and most deposits have been mined out. Alpha's one of only two remaining deposits in Australia. And when Torbanite is heated, it progressively releases hydrocarbons, and that's what's of economic interest. The Torbanite at Alpha is situated within a seam of cannel coal, and while that's not as rich as Torbanite, it yields between 90 and 200 litres per tonne of oil based on historical results. Now, the vision for Alpha is to be a producer of multiple marketable products for a minimum of 10 years by open cut mining with progressive backfill and rehabilitation. The image you see on the right there is an in situ strip ratio model of the combined Torbanite cannel coal seam to overburden. And it's based on chip holes that were drilled early in the year. The seam subcrops only a few metres from the surface in the northeast of the mineral development licence area, and it's about 50 metres below the ground in the southwest of the area. Now, it's important to note all this historical work that was done at Alpha, it actually predates the JORC code, and so we're unable to use these old holes for a mineral resource estimate under the JORC guidelines. And as such, a 62-hole program was conducted in the first half of 2021. The first component was those chip holes you see there, and they were used to guide design of 4-inch coring holes. So the new drilling and the wireline logging that came out of that program will support a mineral resource estimate, and the 4-inch coring will supply samples for analysis, including modified Fisher assay. And that establishes the yield from both the Torbanite and the cannel coal. So the mineral resource is expected by the end of the current quarter. And this, along with some systematic retort test work of the drill hole samples, will underpin the DFS for delivery in the first quarter of next year. So last month, we announced an updated commercialization pathway for Alpha. And the strategy includes production of bitumen, liquid fuels, and synthetic carbon products, as had been previously announced, but with the addition of sulfuric acid, a byproduct of the desulfurization process, and importantly, a green power generation model. And this model would align the project with emissions best practice and includes a hybrid solar and gas-fired power station which feeds into the local grid. So this hybrid power station represents an elegant solution for the use of gases and volatiles that are produced in the early part of the retorting process. So which otherwise they might be considered waste products. These are directed to the gas turbine, used to generate electricity that's fed into the grid, and the waste heat is used to power the retort. Now, the intent of the solar farm is to offset carbon emissions associated with the project, aligning with Queensland renewable power targets and aligning with Tuesday's Queensland parliamentary vote, which was in favour of the commitment to net zero emissions by 2050. Next slide. So bitumen is one of the main products to be produced from Alpha, with up to 15% of the torbanite to be refined into bitumen, based on historical and CITA retort test work. Now, Australia currently imports 100% of its bitumen. Around about 50% comes from Southeast Asia, 40% from China, and the remainder from the Middle East and some other countries. Our neighbours New Zealand and Indonesia also import 100% of their bitumen, and they present as potential export markets for the Alpha product. With a base bitumen price of around 400 US per tonne, added value products include pelletized bitumen, which is mixed with a mineral filler, and that enables cold transport. The bitumen market is approximately 1 million tonnes per annum in Australia, but demand is forecast to increase robustly, and that's on the back of government infrastructure spending in response to the COVID pandemic, and also more locally, infrastructure upgrades ahead of the Queensland Olympics in 2032. GREENVALE's had some strong interest from local asphalt manufacturers, and we're confident that we can get long-term supply agreements in place. So it's a relatively simple conceptual processing for Alpha. The cannel coal and torbanite feed is heated within a retort, which is basically a large oven, just with the absence of air. And the process involves producing 5 products, so bitumen and wholesale power, which we've talked about already, but also blending fuels, sulfuric acid, and then there's the spent torbanite cannel coal. So hydrocarbons are treated to remove the sulfur and then distilled to separate into blending fuels and the gases and volatiles. The gases and volatiles will be directed to the gas turbine, and blending fuels such as a ultra-low sulfur diesel are also produced as part of the process, for which the Bowen Basin mining industry has a potential local market, which is right on the doorstep of Alpha. Sulfuric acid is a byproduct of the sulfur removal process, and it's worth a bit over $100 a tonne and has uses in mineral processing and fertiliser production. The industrial carbon products, basically the spent torbanite and the spent cannel coal, have potential markets as a synthetic anthracite between $90 and $100 a tonne, with higher value product potential in PCI blending material or value-added activated carbon. So this conceptual processing we see above positions Alpha as a unique project with value-added product upside, minimisation of waste, energy efficiency, and carbon offsetting. So our next project is the Georgina Basin IOCG project. It's located in the Northern Territory between Tennant Creek and Mount Isa. And we have 7 granted tenements with 4 under application for a total area of around about 4,500 square k's. Now it's prospective for IOCG deposits, of which the Tennant Creek field has produced 5 million ounces of gold from IOCG deposits historically. And I guess 2 key characteristics of IOCG deposits is they're economically attractive and that they are dense, iron-rich, and associated with magnetic anomalies. And so because of that, most deposits have been discovered on the back of regional magnetic and gravity surveys, and that's what's underpinning the exploration strategy at Georgina. So it's long theorised that the The host rocks for IOCG deposits in Mount Isa and Tennant Creek were part of a continuous package of rocks. However, as you can see from the image up the top, the rocks between the two are actually the Georgina Basin in orange, and that obscures the basement. So between 2016 and 2020, the NTGS and Geoscience Australia invested considerable amounts in geoscience investigations in the East Tennant region. And that was basically upgrading geophysical coverage, some new geophysical methods, mineral prospectivity modelling, and it culminated in a national drilling initiative, stratigraphic drilling, which was completed late last year. And excellent results from the NDI drilling. They confirmed the prospectivity of the Tennant East region to host IOCG deposits. And the key thing was every single one of the 12 holes intersected the right kind of alteration associated with IOCG systems. Most of the holes intersected the Warramunga Formation, which is the same formation that hosts deposits at Tennant Creek. And in some of the holes, actually intersected base metal mineralization. Actually, in that image there, you can see that's hole 5 from the NDI program, and that's located adjacent to one of the GREENVALE tenements. It's got a hematite-altered granite, which is the hematite alteration is a precursor of IOCG mineralization. So around about the same time the NDI drilling was completed, GREENVALE had completed its first high-resolution airborne magnetic survey over 3 of the granted tenements. And the survey identified 2 absolutely classic bullseye IOCG magnetic anomalies right between 2 interpreted faults. So these anomalies were coined the Twin Peaks, and high-resolution 200-metre space gravity surveys were conducted shortly after. So the gravity survey work confirmed the prospectivity of these targets, and we found associated density anomalies with both. You'll note that the gravity and the magnetic anomalies overlap on the western target, but they're offset in the east. And that's it's neither here nor there. IOCG deposits in different regions have different characteristics. So the overlapping nature of these anomalies tends to be more associated with Queensland and Tennant Creek IOCG deposits, but offsetting of anomalies is quite common in the Gawler Craton. So our advanced exploration program has commenced on the ground at Georgina. We've established a site camp, completed a water border supply, diamond drilling, lots of earthworks, and we've put in kilometres of reticulation to get water to the diamond drill site. And given this has basically only happened in the last 6 or so weeks, this is a real testament to the efforts of the team on the ground who have been dealing with some exceedingly challenging access conditions to set GREENVALE up for success. Next slide, please. Thank you. So these are our central tenements, and the basement rocks here are interpreted to be the Warramunga Formation, the same rocks that host the Tennant Creek deposits. And the area has a high degree of interpreted faulting, which is necessary for fluid transport in IOCG systems, and elevated magnetics. Recent work here includes some high-resolution magnetics, 100-metre line spaced, 12,000 line kilometres. That was co-funded by the Northern Territory government under the Resourcing the Territory Initiative exploration grants. We've also conducted an area of 200-metre spaced gravity surveying for 544 stations in total over a strong magnetic anomaly in the north of the central area. Now, the final data from these programs is expected to be received in the coming few weeks, and these will be used to refine further high-priority drill targets to put into the pipeline for drill testing. So in summary, GREENVALE's got an experienced management team, 9 million in the bank, and 2 high-quality projects. The Alpha Torbanite project is a unique, high-yielding deposit with multiple marketable products. A strategic, energy-efficient, and carbon offset commercialization pathway is in place. with a mineral resource estimate due for delivery by the end of the current quarter. We've got a feasibility study due in the end of the following quarter. Now, the Georgina Basin IOCG project. It's a substantial tenement package in a new IOCG frontier. Highly prospective anomalies from the initial geophysical surveys, and the Twin Peaks anomalies have identified for initial drill testing. But really, we've only just started scratching the surface of Georgina. There's still a number of other tenement areas to be looked at. And additional geophysical surveying has been completed to refine further targets. Thank you.